Ripple just made another blockbuster acquisition, and in this video, I want to go over exactly who they just purchased and what it means for XRP going forward. We've also heard a lot of narratives recently coming out of the Bitcoin community that Bitcoin is digital gold. Well, that leaves the question, what is XRP? In this video, we're going to talk about that and some very interesting insights at the end of the video that I think you absolutely need to know when it comes to this digital gold narrative. Like always, your support means so much to this channel. Thank you to everyone who takes the time to like these videos and subscribe to the channel. These two simple things really do help me out so much. Also, if you're in a good place to buy some XRP, make sure to check out my favorite exchange upload down in the description of this video. With that said, let's jump right into it, and I hope you guys enjoyed the content. So let's start out this video and jump right into it, and that is the blockbuster new acquisition put out by Ripple. Now, guys, what we are watching right now is Ripple mass acquiring cryptocurrency infrastructure. Now, in my opinion, this is extremely exciting, alongside a very important proof of essentially Ripple's entire model with XRP. Ripple has gotten a lot of flack over the years for dumping XRP. But the truth is every single cryptocurrency has sellers, whether it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, or any other cryptocurrency asset. The big difference in which what Ripple does with selling XRP versus all these other ecosystems is the money gets invested back into the XRP ledger. So Ripple is going out, and yes, they do sell XRP. But when they sell XRP, they use the proceeds to bring more institutions to the XRP ledger, ultimately creating more demand for XRP. Almost every other network just gives tokens to VCs to essentially fund the project in the beginning. But then the big problem is the VCs don't actually care about the project. They already made their money. So they dump those tokens onto the open market, and that capital that is essentially created via dumping the tokens doesn't go back into that underlying ecosystems. The VCs don't care. They just essentially take the money and do whatever they want with it. Maybe start the next project investment cycle. Maybe they use it to pay their founders. The money's lost from the ecosystem. And I think what we're watching right now is a very important proof of point. What Ripple is doing is working tremendously. And their sales of XRP go to build more value for the XRP ledger ecosystem over the long run. Now let's jump into the acquisition, because it looks like Ripple just actually acquired a new wallet provider. Now this wallet provider is specifically focused on institutional wallets. Now this isn't as flashy as some of the other acquisitions we've seen, and I don't think we have a number on it just yet, but essentially this is going to be a tag on to the Ripple custody product. Essentially, Ripple is going out and building out infrastructure for their institutional custody clients to make them better equipped to deal in the cryptocurrency industry. I took a look at this company. I'm not going to say their name right now because I don't want to butcher it, and it probably has a specific pronunciation, but this is the company right here, Palisade, something like that. And essentially, they're more of a technology acquisition, in my opinion, than some of the other acquisitions we've seen from Ripple. A lot of the acquisitions we've seen from Ripple recently have really been based on customer acquisition, in my opinion. Picking up people like Hidden Road, picking up people like Mitaco, picking up people like G Treasury. These are financial institutions that are essentially linked to thousands upon thousands of banks. I would even say tens of thousands of banks. What we're seeing with this new crypto wallet infrastructure provider they just picked up, it's not so much that this company has all these different partners and all this different infrastructure, but instead it seems like they have a tech stack that's deeply ingrained with the XRP ledger. So essentially, this is more of an infrastructure for their current custody business, and it's more of a technology play, someone who's built really cool software and they want to acquire it and bring it in-house. So I don't think it's as much of a, oh, this is crazy, look at how many banks they're connected to. No, it's more of a, hey, they're doing really cool stuff on the wallet side. Let's go bring this person into Ripple custody. So overall, cool acquisition. It's great to see. It's really cool to see that Ripple is expanding their custody offering with someone like this. It's not someone where it's like, oh, this is an immediate Swift relation or this is an immediate JP Morgan relation. But it's still important to see these things happen. And it's also a great proof point that Ripple's proceeds from their selling of XRP really go to create more value over the long run than value is detracted from the actual sale. Let me give you guys just a quick example of what I mean by this. If I am Ripple, right? And I need to sell, let's just keep the numbers really small for an easy example, 10 XRP in order to make Bank of America a Ripple client and have them use the XRP ledger. Selling that 10 XRP is nothing, right? Everyone's going to say, Ripple, sell the 10 XRP and go onboard Bank of America or JP Morgan, right? That is a huge value driver for the XRP ledger over the long run. We're at 10 XRP now, who cares? This is what Ripple's business really has been in terms of bringing on larger financial institutions to bring more value to the XRP ledger over the long run and build out the ecosystem. Yes, the numbers are a lot bigger. Things are a lot more complex. They're not trading 10 XRP for someone to come use it, but it's this general idea that people need to understand. And in my opinion, it is the perfect way to build out a blockchain ecosystem, because all these other ecosystems have these huge problems. They have all these token holders who don't actually care about the ecosystem at all. All they care about is making money. And I would much rather see things done Ripple's way, transparently like they have been, in order to bolster and build out institutional liquidity and depth, rather than essentially XRP tokens being in the hands of people who simply don't care and are only interested in lining their own pockets. With that said, I want to move on to a very important thing that I've really seen a lot of talk about, and it's something that I want to provide a lot of pushback on. Recently, there has been a huge narrative of Bitcoin as digital gold. And I find this so interesting because I have some really important thoughts around why I think this is kind of a silly narrative for Bitcoin. At the end of the day, Bitcoin is not digital gold. In fact, I don't even know what that reference really means. And when I first got into Bitcoin, there was no Bitcoin is digital gold narrative. Instead, it was Bitcoin was peer-to-peer payments. So it's just whatever narrative fits the current discussion around Bitcoin. Wall Street likes gold, so they're calling Bitcoin digital gold. But the reason I really highlight this is because I think it's actually kind of detrimental over the long run. And I want to read something I actually wrote about this. I said, Bitcoin as digital gold being worth more than any other narrative that comes around later down the road is nothing more than speculation. Essentially, what we see right now is these arbitrary narratives are just being assigned to these digital assets. I said, in my personal opinion, as an OG Bitcoin holder, digital gold was nothing more than a randomly assigned narrative to try to get Wall Street to understand what Bitcoin is. But as a result, it puts an arbitrary cap on what Bitcoin can be. And what I mean by that is Bitcoin's really a lot more than digital gold and can be a lot more than digital gold. But if everyone gets it in their mindset that Bitcoin is digital gold, it assigns this arbitrary market cap to what Bitcoin can be, right? If the gold market is 10 trillion, then if Bitcoin's digital gold, right, maybe $10 trillion market cap. But when you start to understand that that's nothing more than just some randomly assigned words and it doesn't really mean anything, you start to understand that the market caps of these cryptocurrencies, right, can far exceed digital gold, can far exceed the entire worth of global assets. What the XRP ledger really is a decentralized clearinghouse. So if you want to call XRP the decentralized clearinghouse token, right? Maybe you can make a point on that. But the whole thing is kind of silly because at the end of the day, that's not only what the XRP ledger is. The XRP ledger is the XRP ledger and XRP is XRP. The value of that should stand on its own. It shouldn't need these arbitrarily assigned narratives in order for people to find value in it. And in fact, that won't be the case over the long run. All these arbitrary narratives ultimately fail because the technology moves past to what that really simple, easy to comprehend assigned narrative even means. For example, Bitcoin was peer-to-peer payments. It couldn't really meet that vision and it was downgraded to digital gold. Maybe one day it goes back to peer-to-peer payments and is it no longer digital gold? These narratives don't make any sense. It's just an easy thing for Wall Street to wrap their head around, but it will move past that. The XRP ledger provides so much more than just the XRP token essentially being digital gold, right? The XRP token, you could say, is digital gold, right? There's a set amount, it can't be recreated, and you can hoard it and essentially store value in XRP. There, it meets the definition of digital gold, but it can also be used for payments. It can be used for liquidity. It's an AMM, it's a DEX, it allows decentralized payments. So it has all these different attributes that are clearly far more valuable than just holding the XRP token. And I think one of the biggest issues that Bitcoiners are going to put themselves in is they assign these narratives, right? And ultimately it limits people's comprehension of what the technology can do one day. What we're looking at is not digital gold. What we're looking at with the XRP ledger is so much more. It's a brand new innovation that's going to change the way money moves globally. It's an internet of value. And these kinds of things you can't compare to previous market caps of previous technologies and assets. It's simply impossible. I remember when I first got started in investing, everyone was saying, oh, Amazon can never be this or Google can never be that because the biggest oil companies on earth were this. They said Amazon is digital oil, but it's not oil, and therefore it'll probably go to half the market cap of Exxon. Guess what? Amazon zoomed by it because that's not what Amazon was really doing. They didn't actually have digital oil. There was no such thing as digital oil. What Amazon was doing was transformational to all of e-commerce, and what they used was data to essentially build out the pipelines to make their e-commerce platform prosper. We're going to see the same thing with cryptocurrencies, and the XRP ledger is probably going to reach market caps that are far superior than anything we've seen in the gold market or any of these other randomly assigned assets people want to compare it to. And that's because the technology is transformational. It's ushering a new wave of asset tokenization, a new wave of value that has never been seen before on this planet. And that's going to demand market caps higher than this planet has ever deemed applicable for any other asset class. That's simply how innovation works. But I think the XRP ledger is in this pristine position where it's not artificially being assigned these narratives. And instead, the XRP ledger is being allowed to do what the XRP ledger does best, which is solve the global liquidity needs by creating instantaneous decentralized liquidity for the entire world financial system. I think the value proposition of that is so much larger than tokenized gold. Tokenized gold completely, or is not tokenized gold, digital gold. It completely disregards the interesting and important attributes of what these networks were meant to do in the first place, which was to provide new rails for a financial system that desperately needs upgrading. Guys, thank you so much for coming. I hope you enjoyed this update. And for now, Mickle out.